So to continue where we left off, for the last two players of the game, keep in mind, there are other players in the game. However, we want to simplify this, all right? We'll get to those people when we get to those people. Let's just understand these for now. So the last two people I want to talk about of the game of trading are going to be, oh my fucking Windows 11, bro. Hold on. Time. Who is Time? Time in the game of trading is like the hidden boss fight. Not a hidden boss fight. It is the hidden boss. So the liquidity providers / institutions are the boss battles, but Time itself is the hidden boss. Now let's break this down a little bit. So the role that Time plays is it basically decide who wins, right? So once again, so the liquidity providers / institutions role, their boss battles, their role is to move size and to create objectives in the market. So in the game. In the game, their role is to move size and create objectives. Time is the hidden boss. Its role is to decide who wins. So if these guys are boss battles, but their role is to move size and create objectives, well, who decide who wins, right? This boss battle, the institutions, they're neither your friend nor your enemy, really. They're just there to complete an objective, which is to create objectives and to move size during the video game. But somebody has to decide who wins. So that somebody is going to be Time. It is the hidden boss battle that you can't see. Or I wouldn't say that you can't see, but it's the hidden boss battle that most people ignore. So its role to decide who wins. It's like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that information? We are going to go over this on a chart when we get to that point. But for now, we are just learning what it is. So the two things that it uses to decide who wins is something called a higher time frame. So in trading, like on these charts before, when we were setting them up a couple videos ago, or however many videos ago, I had you set up this 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute, 30 minute, 1 hour, 30 hour, and 4 hour time frame. I had you start all these time frames. The higher up in the time frame you go, the more significance it holds. And we can deep dive into this in a later video, but just know the higher up in the time frame that you go, the more significance that it's going to hold. But the less information you're going to get. In this example, I've switched to a 12-month chart, less candles. But if we go down to a daily chart, I get more candles. So that's important. So the higher time frames, basically what they do is they tell the campaign story. Or they just tell the story. So in a video game, if you're playing online and your game mode is, so the higher time frame, what the higher time frame basically does is it tells the overall direction of the story. I'll try to give you an example of this. Say that the servers have been up for 4 days, and over the course of those 4 days, players have been playing team deathmatch, and it's the red team versus the blue team. And over the course of those 4 days, a majority of those team deathmatch rounds have been won by the blue team, right? More than the red team has won. Well, that information is going to show up on the higher time frame. It's going to show you overall of what the story is of the battle, right? As where the lower time frame shows you moment to moment combat. So that's important. So let's break these two down one more time. The higher time frame shows you the overall direction of the battle, the overall direction of the story, right? It shows you the overall battle direction in terms of story. Hopefully I'm not overcomplicating that. The lower time frame shows you the moment-to-moment combat. So opportunity exists on both of these time frames, but where do you think you're going to find more opportunity? On a time frame that shows you the overall story, or on the time frame that shows you moment-to-moment combat? Well, the real answer is both of them. right? That's where we come back to who are you as a trader, and you'll eventually have to pick what kind of trading style that you want to deal in. But we're not there yet. So you just need to know what these things do. The higher time frame it shows the overall story. So no matter what you see on the lower time frame, like the lower time frame is telling you that the red team is beating blue's butt, but when you go to the higher time frame, it's showing you that blue is actually stomping on red for the past 4 days. Well, whose side are you going to take when you go down to the lower time frame? Are you going to take blue side or are you going to take red side? Probably blue. Although blue's getting beat in that current moment, you're going to wait for blue to show you some kind of significance that it's winning again. And then you take advantage of that because that means the red team is hurting now. That's essentially what you want to be doing. That is literally trading. That's where that patience, remember your stamina bar on your character? That's where that patience comes into handy. You don't want to deplete your stamina bar before you've even had an opportunity to capitalize on, you don't want to deplete your stamina before you've even had the opportunity to capitalize on a big move or on a objective that got created in the market. Time is the hidden boss. Its role is it decide who wins. It does that through the higher time frame, which shows the overall story of the battle, and it does that through the lower time frame, which shows moment to moment combat. And once again, we'll show all this on a chart. I just want you to get the concepts in your head. And I know I've been saying that this whole time, but I don't want you to get confused. Okay, and the last character we're going to talk about is number 8. News/data. This one thing is exactly why trading isn't gambling, or at least it's not normal gambling, because normal gambling isn't backed up by data and statistics, especially every single day. Trading is backed up by data, it's backed up by statistics, it's backed up by math. There are things behind it that you can take advantage of, that you can use to take advantage of to make a profit, right? Because it's all numbers on a screen at the end of the day. And in numbers exists repetition. And if repetition exists, opportunity exists, because where there is predictability, there's going to be opportunity. So the 8th character we want to introduce is news data. These are going to act as the patch notes for our video game. I mean, do I even need to explain this if you play video games, right? Patch notes are basically game updates. They change the rules of the game. They change the loot pool. They change how it is that the game is played. Patch notes play the most significance when it comes to how a map is differentiating itself from other maps. Does that make sense? We'll go over some examples. So its role is to change the rules temporarily. It doesn't have to be temporarily. Oh my God. It doesn't have to be temporarily. It can be permanently as well. But most of the time, news and data only looks to change the roles of the game temporarily, either for that day or for that week, or it could even be permanently. And it's like, how do you know when the rules of the game have changed? I'll give you an example. Say you're getting on a game every single day, right? And you go to a specific cave because you know it gives you 800 coins, right? Every single day. You've done it for a whole year. Well, all of a sudden, some patch notes drop, and they say that they're changing the way that the cave is, I don't know, the enemies inside of the cave, right? Well, now when you go to that cave, it's no longer giving you 800 coins, right? So there is no more predictability. So you've essentially, the opportunity has changed. They've changed the algorithm. That cave doesn't provide what it once used to, right? Well, now you need to learn that new cave. You need to learn to play by the rules of that new cave on those new patch notes, right? And say that went on for 2 months, and then after 3 months, the cave just randomly goes back to the old algorithm. And now when you go in there, you're getting your 800 coins again. That's basically trading. That's how news/data, or AKA the patch notes, affect what it is that you're trading. Hopefully I gave a good example there. Okay, so we're going to go over where to find news, how to use news, and what it all means in a later video. But for the simplicity of this video, all you need to know is red patch notes = equal server instability. And let me ask you something real quick. If you knew the server for the video game was going to be unstable that day, would you play that game? Would you go fight that boss fight if you knew that the server for the game was going to be unstable that day? Would you risk losing everything you worked for on your character? Probably not. It wouldn't, like, you would say that's not fair, right? Why would you put yourself at an unfair disadvantage? That doesn't make any sense. So we're going to go over that more in a later video, but for right now, all you need to understand is that red bad, and orange equals balance. So why are you saying red and orange and blah blah blah, blue purple? We'll get to it when we get to it. Just know there's something known as red news and there's something known as orange folder news. So red folder news, orange folder news. Just understand that news and data just acts as patch notes, right? We're going to go over all of these in their own videos. But for right now, I just want you to understand what these things are, okay? So these are all of the main components that make up the game of trading, all right? So let's tie all this together to bring it all together. So basically, let me find to follow the yellow arrow here. So basically, know the game world and your role. So we already went over the easiest part, which is your role, which is the most important part of the game. It is you. You are the most important part in this game. What is your role? You need to know the game world that you're playing on. We just went over all of the main game components, and now we're going to tie everything together, right? So you need to first understand your character. The second thing you need to do is understand what a broker is. It is the gatekeeper. They process everything you're doing. Every move you decide to make, left, right, down, up, they process that information. Essentially, if you decide that you want to throw out an attack, what the broker does is it takes that information and it processes it to the server, right? That's what happens. The liquidity providers / institutions, they are the boss battles. They are essentially your opposition in the market, right? They are not your friend, but they are also not your enemy. If you can figure out a way to get behind them before they make their move, you can profit significantly in terms of XP. You can still gain some XP even if you're not behind them, but we'll go over that in another video. Has a lot to do with patience, once again. Another thing is the retail trader. It is just the majority of traders. It is NPCs and other players in the market. You yourself, you are a retail trader to another player. It is just the overwhelming amount of normal people who are trading. NPCs and other players, right? We already went over what the roles are for all these. There are the markets. The markets are what game mode are you playing? What market are you dealing in? And when somebody asks you what market do you trade, you'll tell them Forex, futures, or stocks, or crypto if you trade crypto. But for the sake of these videos, we're only going to be dealing in futures because that's what I specialize in. So my character is a wizard who deals in futures. That is what I would say. That is my game mode. I am a wizard-based character who deals in the game mode of futures. And then if somebody asks you, well, what map do you play on? So, oh, that's pretty cool. You deal in futures. You only play the futures game mode. Well, what map do you play on? What's your pair / instrument? What map do you like to play the most? I would say, well, I like NQ. It's pretty fast for my wizard build. You know, I get out a lot of high damage, but I think gold works the best for my character, for my game character. You see how this all ties together? I'm not saying you have to talk like that, but you need to understand the logic behind it, okay? I trade in the futures market. My game mode is futures. I trade in the futures market. And the map I like to play on the most in the futures market is gold. That is where I make the most XP. Well, what about time? Time is the hidden boss. It decides who wins. I follow the higher time frame. I look at the overall story. So when I go down to the lower time frame, I wait for it to match the higher time frame, and then I look for opportunity. Now, there are other ways to trade, but for simplicity, that's all you need to understand. You are waiting for the lower time frame to match the higher time frame. And then there's just news data / patch notes. It is just the temporary change in the rules on your specific map. So the news / data affects the map you're playing on, and it affects the game mode that you play. It affects those two things. It can be either temporarily or it can be permanent. And how you know it's temporarily or permanent, or through how that map or that game mode you're playing all the time performs over a certain amount of time. And those are pretty much all of the broker connects the player to the servers. So for simplicity reasons, just understand that the player is connected through the game, through the broker. Okay. The boss battle in the game are institutions / liquidity providers. They just move the market and they create objectives for you to target. They are neither your friend nor your enemy. The market that you choose is connected to the map that you decide to play on. All right. Retail traders are NPCs and other players in the game. They are also affected by the boss battles in the game. They also have their own brokers. They also choose to play on game modes and maps. They are simply you, but you look at them as other people, right? That's not that hard to understand. Time is the hidden boss in this entire game. Time decides who wins. It decides if you're going to lose or win that day. And if you go, well, time isn't something I can control. No, but time is something that you can predict. And where there is predictability, there is opportunity, right? If something repeats every single day, you can probably take advantage of that. Does that make sense? And then there's news data. News data affects pairs. So it affects the map you play on, and it affects the game mode you play. And I guess you could say it affects you as well. And it affects the boss battles, right? So we don't want to be trading on days that where the news drops, the patch notes drop, and it's going to make the game unstable that day. Nobody wants to trade that day. Retail traders and you as a singular player, you don't want to trade that day, right? So it wouldn't be fair. Now, there are people who do trade those days and, they profit from it, but you can also lose. Think about it. If you're new to this game, or if you're trying to grow in this game, right? You're not a pro ranked Diamond 3 player. Your only goal in this game is just to stay alive. And I'm telling you, this category right here, the know your role, like your role, who you are as a player. We're going to talk so much about this one specific category, because I'm telling you, this over all this other stuff, that none of this matters. None of this matters. None of this matters if you don't have this right here in order. If you don't have you in order, bro, none of this other stuff matters. So we're going to deep dive into this like a whole lot, this category. You need to understand, once you know who the characters are in the game you're playing, the game stops feeling random. If you understand where to find all of these things that we just talked about, what they look like, what their role, what they do, so what their role is in the video game, what they affect, the game stops feeling so random. The game doesn't feel random anymore. You know why you lost at that point in time. You know why you won at that point in time, because you understand the components of the game. It's no different from Call of Duty or RuneScape. It's no different from any of that stuff. It's the same dynamic. So I'll say again, I'll say this to close off this video. There are other components in the game. A few of them that I can mention are algorithms. These are all things you can't control, by the way. The only thing you control in this game is you. There are things like algorithms, which are just invisible players that have used like an invisibility spell. You can't see them. There's order flow. We are going to talk about that at some point. But that essentially is just the combat log. It just shows you what is going on inside of the game. Imagine you took like an X-ray spell for your character. That's what order flow is. That is, we're going to talk about that a lot. There's volume profile, which we're also going to talk about. That basically shows you, it gives you it's a battle map. Imagine before you went on a quest, an NPC gave you a map and it told you where all of the hottest areas are that all the other players are interested in fighting at. It showed you where all the treasure was going to be at, where all the treasure is going to be at, where the most XP is going to be at, where the boss battles are taking place, where the boss battles are going to be at before they're even there. That's what the volume profile and order flow show you. And it's like, well, boy, I want to learn that stuff. Yeah, because it's predictable. And where there's predictability, there's opportunity. But we'll get to that when we get to it. For now, you need to understand these concepts. And you need to understand the logic behind these things. Or else when we get to learning the tools and we get to trying to learn things like that to help you, you're not going to understand because you don't even understand these basic broken down things right here. What is time? If I ask you what is time, this is where you need to get with this. If I ask you, if you're playing the game of trading, what role does time play? You need to be able to tell me, oh, that's easy. It decides who wins. That's all you need to be able to tell me. And if I ask you, well, why does it get to decide who wins? You need to be able to tell me, oh, that's because the higher time frame. You need to be able to tell me that's because the higher time frame tells you where the battle is going, and the lower time frame tells you the moment-to-moment combat. Now, you don't need to be able to tell me that word for word, but that's where you need to get your understanding. Because if you can do that, that means you understand how to trade. You understand how to day trade. Not even day trade. You just understand how to trade in general if you can do those things. If you can get this logic inside of your head. Once again, we're going to deep dive into each of these things in their own videos. I'll dedicate videos specifically to these things. But then eventually at the end of this series, I'm going to tie everything together, and we're going to go onto a chart with this same terminology, with these same examples, and we're going to break down how to trade, when to trade, all of it. We're just going to trade, okay? But for right now, I just need you to understand this logic and this terminology. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But with that being said, make sure you guys go ahead and leave a like on the video. Go ahead and please drop a subscription. Hit the subscribe button. That motivates me to keep doing this for you guys. And then drop a comment if you're confused. Man, if you're confused, or if something doesn't make sense to you still, the best thing you can do is ask a question. Ask a question down in the comments, and I'll answer it, or somebody else will be able to answer it for you. Because if you're not asking questions, do you even care? Really, I mean, think, like, if you're not asking questions, do you even care? You know what I mean? Like, you don't care enough. So go down to the comment section, ask something you're confused about, or try to get some type of clarity. It doesn't even have to be a question. Just get some type of clarity down in the comment section. Go down and read some comments. But with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next video.